Hello, everyone. Today we'll be going over the 5 big legal topics when entering the esports world as a player. Let's jump right into it. Pulse. The first one on our list is intellectual property. What should the players know about that?
When it comes to esports, many professionals they're not really too familiar with their intellectual property and who owns the intellectual property. And specifically, I'm talking about in organizational sponsorship and endorsement deals. There's often clauses in the contract that addresses the intellectual property and who owns the player's name, image, and likeness. This is an area that the pros should be very familiar with and keeping an eye on when it comes to it, because if they're signing an endorsement contract to ensure that they're benefiting appropriately, they should not be signing their intellectual property away for life. If they're going to be giving the organization or the sponsorship the rights to use their name and likeness and image for an X amount of time, they need to be compensated appropriately for that amount of time that's listed in the contract. The license must extend past the overseeing body and to the players as well. Players who choose to stream their play and create YouTube videos for additional profit. Intellectual property is also involved when it comes to players streaming and their YouTube videos. It's not simply just using their tweets or their image or their videos from when they were part of the organization or with that sponsor. It also has the players also have to keep in mind when they're streaming their play and creating the YouTube videos that is not contradicting what is in their contract due to the intellectual property clause. I know that might sound confusing, but if you are giving, say, G Fuel the rights to your intellectual property, and then 5 years down the road you sign a contract with Advanced GG, that is a conflict of interest with G Fuel because they had the rights to your intellectual property to quote unquote X amount of times, however much you said in your contract. So intellectual property is a very important topic and an important area in esports that people should definitely become knowledgeable of and start thinking more about it when they're looking at these contracts and just generally in their career when it comes to esports.
Going into our second topic, it's betting in esports. What can you tell us about that, Pulse?
Gambling and betting has already become pretty commonplace and pretty typical to see when it comes to traditional sports like professional sports and college sports. It's often seen on the sites like DraftKings and FanDuel and everything like that. However, when it comes to the esports world, it's really been untested. But that doesn't mean, as we all know, that gambling is not going on in esports. How many times do we see box fights for wagers in Fortnite, for particular, as a specific example? When it comes to gambling in esports, it's a subject where there is no rules. Unlike traditional gambling, there's a ton of rules when it comes to gambling on professional events. So this is an area that is still developing in esports, and it's really something to keep an eye on as the industry continues to pull in a lot of investment money and everything like that. This is definitely an area in esports that will grow, and I imagine that gambling will start getting traditional rules like the other professional sports do when it comes to betting. But for right now, there is no in-game rules or regulations when it comes to betting on esports, and it's could become a bigger issue. We haven't really seen anything really come out of it yet, but it definitely is something to keep in mind of when it comes to the legal implications that can come from gambling.
All right, getting into our third topic, it's about contracts as a whole. Why should someone be looking to hire a lawyer? What goes into the contracts and all that good information? And then just to add this in as a bonus question, why is it important to have a lawyer negotiate contracts for you?
Contracts should be reviewed and negotiated on your behalf by lawyers, because even though they might seem pretty simple and straightforward to the average person at a quick glance, a good lawyer will be able to identify many legal risks that are involved with the contract and also issues that could possibly arise from the contract. That's why lawyers are typically trained to interpret the law and the implications that can come with the contract, particularly if you're talking about the terms, whether they might be deemed unfair or whether they could possibly be voided for other reasons. A lawyer really tries to think of everything that could possibly happen before it happens, even though 99% of the time, no issues will arise from the minor details in the contract that the lawyer is reviewing and negotiating on the client's behalf. It's very important that those certain clauses and certain wordings in the contract get fixed. Another good reason why a lawyer should review and negotiate a contract on someone's behalf is because ordinarily they are not directly involved with the contract. So they can take a stand back and they can look at it from their experienced and educated way that they've been trained, rather than just the pro being all excited, being like, oh, I got this great offer from an organization, I want to sign it right now. A lawyer will sit there and be like, hold up, hold the phone, let's make sure that we're not signing our life away here, and they can look at the contract in that way and make sure that the client is always going to be getting the best possible contract that they can get. An experienced lawyer will typically advise you of key legal risk and issues in the contract, and that's something that we do here at CarterPulse. We explain to them like, hey, this is some important stuff in the contract that you should know. Just kind of tying it all together, it's very important because there's a reason why lawyers have to go to school for 8 years. There's a reason why lawyers have to pass a bar exam that is 2 days long. They are trained and educated to be looking out for this stuff. Every single contract truly needs to be going through with a fine-tooth comb, because one misplaced comment could completely change how the court looks at those contracts. So obviously one of the biggest legal things when it comes to esports that everyone often thinks about is just the contracts. There's contracts involved in organizational deals and sponsorship deals and endorsement deals and any type of deal that is involved in esports, and any type of deal that you are getting yourself into, you should be signing a legal document. You want to protect yourself. The organization or the sponsorship is going to want to protect yourself. Unfortunately, many professionals and even teams in esports right now have poorly drafted contracts. That is just a fact, and I do not mean to insult any professional or any organization that might have drafted their own contract by Googling something, but there's a lot of doors left open when a contract is not drafted the proper way. Now, looking at it on the professional side of things, if they are not having competent, educated, licensed individuals reviewing and negotiating these contracts on their behalf, there's oftentimes a lot of things missed that they don't even think about. One misplaced comment in a contract can completely change how the contract is construed in the court of law. That is why it's very, very, very important why you should get competent individuals to review and negotiate your contracts on your behalf. I'm not simply saying that because I am a lawyer. I'm simply saying that because if you look at the history of esports, the facts support what I am saying. Obviously, the biggest known thing is the Tfue versus FaZe situation. We're not going to get all into that. Maybe we will in another video. But obviously, that was a big contract issue in esports, because I'm willing to bet that the contract was not reviewed by a competent individual that went through it and made sure that Tfue was going to be protected in every way possible. So that is something that's obviously a huge issue in esports. It's been a huge issue in esports, and it will continue being a huge issue in esports until really there's rules regulating this. I don't really see this stopping being an issue in esports until esports start having like how the NFL and the NBA, NHL do, where they have the same contract for every single team. Every single organization in those professional leagues use the same contract. It's a league-wide contract that is approved by the Players Association. So until something like that happens in esports, contract law is clearly going to be a huge topic to talk about, and something that absolutely all professionals and even organizations should be very knowledgeable about.
All right, getting into our fourth topic here, we got regulation in esports, diving deep into the rules and how Epic or whoever the company is monitoring the games, looks into how players perform and if there's any cheating involved or anything like that. So this is a growing topic, and Pulse will be explaining more about regulation in esports and why it's definitely a growing topic and it's very important.
So kind of going off of my last topic, how I talked about how there's no contract templates as used by every organization and sponsor and everything like that. The main reason is because, which is our fourth topic, is that there's no formal body of regulation when it comes to esports. There are some national organizations out there, but there is no global authorities just yet. Now, as I keep saying, with more money and more attention, everything coming in esports, this is something that I see developing in the future. Right now, pretty much individually, all the gamers are just regulated by themselves. If you're not signed to an organization, there is really nothing saying much what you can and cannot do. So until we start seeing national/global rules that can be established to regulate the esports industry, this is going to be something to keep an eye on. I mean, and when it comes to cheating and match fixing and let's just say doping, people might start taking, I'm just spitballing off to the top of my head here, maybe Adderall, something like that becomes a performance enhancement drug. Until there's regulation, this is going to be a topic to keep an eye on, because there's really nothing stopping from someone really trying to cheat or match mix or dope, unless they get caught by, for example, like Epic's Fortnite software picks up on something that they have a software on their computer. Other than that, there's really no regulation testing the professionals in this industry, and it's something to really keep an eye on, as I see it becoming a huge legal issue in the future.
Last but not least, we got our fifth topic of the day. We got player representation and why it's important to have a lawyer on your side.
So the last issue that really is involved in esports, and ironically it is what our business is all about, it is about player representation. If you look at other traditional sports out there like the NFL, NBA, NHL, etc., all those professional athletes, they have managers, they have lawyers, they have marketing people, they have public address announcers. I don't know, I could keep going on and on. These guys and girls, they have probably 10 or 15 people on their team working for them at all times. It is a well-established tradition in esports that oftentimes these players are quote unquote managing and representing themselves. Now, if you look back at all the topics we kind of just addressed, that can become a huge issue if, one, you are just, say, a minor, you're a 16-year-old kid, and you think you can just sign this 35-page contract, not think about anything of it, and then 6 months down the line, you don't realize that you pretty much just signed your life away. I really see player representation becoming a bigger thing in esports. I really see esports athletes becoming more knowledgeable when it comes to this, and knowing that they are professional athletes. There's no doubt about it. Just because you're an esports professional athlete, that doesn't differ you from being, in the NFL or NBA or anything like that. You should still have the competent individuals and formal representation there for you. There's a reason why all professional leagues outside of esports, they require their pros to literally have agents/lawyers representing them. This is something that I see eventually becoming a more popular thing. Obviously, if we go back to our last topic with regulation, if there is regulation that starts getting involved in esports, I could see them requiring player representation. It's really a growing subject, and it's something that all pros really should think about and realize that not just CarterPulse, not the other agencies or management companies out there or anyone like that. Yeah, they might be taking a commission percentage, or they might be taking a small fee for representing you. The pros really need to understand how important it is, because at the end of the day, they should be the ones that are just concentrating on making the content, or if you're a competitive pro, concentrating on getting better at the game. You guys should not have to be the ones worrying about answering those emails, taking those meetings, taking those calls, hiring a lawyer to review your contract. You guys should really just worry about the game and worry about yourself, and let other people handle the business side of things. I'm sure many of you guys get emails that say like, oh, I got this opportunity, blah, 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 blah. And then you guys respond to them 5 or 6 days later. All of a sudden that opportunity is off the table. This is a very quick moving industry. If you had proper representation, they would have been able to take that call for you quickly, figure it out if this was a good opportunity for you or not. Player representation just is definitely going to become a bigger thing. And I really think that this is a growing field, especially when it comes to negotiating contracts and sophisticated individuals with obviously skilled legal representation being there to assist the professionals when it comes to all aspects of this business.
All right, thanks for that, Pulse. That was really good information. That's it for this week. Join us next week as we break down more legal issues in esports with Kevin. If this video helped you out, please drop a like and subscribe as we upload twice a week. Be on the lookout for more Among Us content. See you next week.